everyone, it's Elena back for this week's episode of the Financial Planner Live podcast, and this week I am joined by Laura Dean, Operations and Marketing Director at Balanced Wealth Planning. How are you this afternoon, Laura?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And it is the question that I always like to start with, just to give us a good roundup of, what you do. Do you mind talking us through a little bit about what you do in your career journey to date, how you've got to this point?
Yeah, so I suppose like quite a lot of people in financial services, I fell into the industry. So it wasn't kind of where I thought I'd end up, but, kind of just went with it and hopefully made the best of it. I started out just sort of fresh from school, not really knowing exactly what I wanted to kind of do next, bit of a crossroads. And I just applied for, in my local village, a part-time admin role that just was kind of advertised locally. And it just happened to be a financial advisor firm. So I sort of started there, didn't really think much of it, thought it would be quite temporary. And then, I don't even know how long I've been in the industry now, but years and years later, I think it's about 14 years or something like that. I'm kind of still in the industry and, have done various different roles. So yeah, I started off doing part-time admin, and then as I got a bit more interested in financial, sort of services and what they actually did, I did the CII exams and then developed into being a paraplanner and then eventually into a financial advisor. And then, I finally ended up doing operations and kind of management stuff now in my most recent position. So, I've kind of had a plethora of different roles.
Yeah, you've had a sort of climbed the ladder throughout the industry, as I would say. And I think it's really interesting what you say about how you didn't necessarily, look out to be within financial planning and you naturally fell into the industry. It's definitely a common theme that becomes apparent. Even, myself and what I do, I would never grew up thinking that I was going to work in recruitment, but I fell into it and I love it. And here I am, how many years later with a long, fruitful career, hopefully ahead of me. So once you started, your role, that first admin role, what is it that made you stay? What enticed you and thought, this is it for me?
I suppose it's, from a personal level, I guess, when I first started out, I had no experience at all, even on, a personal level, having, finance, money and investments and all of that sort of thing. It's all quite new to you. You come out of school and then you've all of a sudden, financial education is not something that was particularly around, sort of when I went to school. I know that they're trying to get a bit more of that. So on a personal level, it was really interesting finding out about, just what you can do with the money that you earn and how you budget, how you, sort of save for the future and just thinking about all these different aspects. And then I suppose as it kind of has developed, initially with paraplanning and financial advice, it's just like a massive puzzle, really. You're kind of trying to solve a problem, and I've got that kind of brain where I like to kind of work out things and find the answer. And also it's really, really rewarding. So, every client is completely different. Every case that you sort of work on is so varied that you just can never, and the industry is always changing. So you can just never, you can never pause, really. You can never know it all. You can never stop. It's just continual development, and I think that that's really fulfilling and kept me interested, I suppose, along the years, because it just continues to change. So
I think the rewarding element is something really interesting, and I think it's something that lots of different people touch on, and there are lots of reasons why people look to join the industry, and B, a reason why lots of people stay in it. And we always talk about finances are so important and being able to support the people through that journey. It must be so rewarding to feel the real value that you add to your clients. Did you notice that from even like an administrative level, how much value that you are adding to these people's lives?
Yeah, definitely. I think, all aspects of, and definitely our team now, they play a massive part in, the client journey and nothing, the admin is really essential. And I definitely found that, you were helping people on a day-to-day basis, getting things done. You know, if they needed a withdrawal for something that, you know, is a really important purchase, or they wanted to gift something to somebody, or, you know, life-changing things for people, you know, finances really. You know, people want financial advice at key stages in their life, and they need that support, and that goes from, you know, the administrators all the way up to, you know, the financial planners, and every part of that journey for them. So yeah, I found it in every role that I've done. You know, you really see the value of what you're adding to people, and that's really lovely.
Yeah, I find that really interesting, because you speak to lots of people that, you know, are looking to join the industry. May that be graduates, may that be people that have started self-studying their ROs, and they're really passionate themselves about building a long-term career within financial planning. But I feel like they very often feel like they will only start adding value at that like client-facing stage, when you are the individual providing the financial advice. So it's really interesting and really nice to hear. And I think individuals in the audience that are listening to this will find it really, you know, positive that at every level within the financial planning process, you know, you've worked all your way yourself all the way up to a sort of directorship. Even when you were an administrator, you still felt like you were adding value, and you still noticed how much you were an incremental part to the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, even, I mean, as sad as it sounds, but I knowing the clients, knowing their dates of birth off by heart, you know, when you kind of are living and breathing that client, you know, on a day-to-day basis, you know, and our PA Balance, she absolutely loves speaking with clients, booking in the meetings, asking them how, you know, year on year, how they're getting on. And that's not necessarily kind of part of her role, but it really makes a massive difference, and she loves that element of it. And yeah, it just it you know, goes through to every, as I said, every member of the team really makes such a massive difference. So and hopefully feels that fulfillment as well. So
yeah, that passion that you have for the industry definitely transpires, and there's, you know, no doubt how you've got to the point you are now, and you can feel that energy throughout our conversation, and we're only just beginning. So we're looking here, operations director of like operations and marketing, you know, currently, and that especially the operations side of things, because I feel like I speak to lots of candidates that want to explore that avenue of the industry, but it's a very subjective term. So do you mind talking us through a little bit what the operations side of your role involves?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where probably people don't fully understand what it be, and it can also vary massively from company to company, and, you know, industry to industry. So you know, I think generally, I guess I get involved with just all aspects of the business, making sure that it runs as smoothly and as efficiently as possible, making sure that all members of staff have what they need to be able to execute, you know, their part of the, you know, they're all kind of cogs in a massive, you know, sort of machine that's kind of working together. And I guess I'm kind of, I don't know, maybe it sounds a bit cheesy, but the oil to kind of make it, you know, all of them run, you know, and work side by side as best as possible. And I can often be the person kind of in between and coordinating stuff between the different teams and the different sort of roles, making sure that we're adequately resourced, you know, in terms of recruitment. Obviously, that's how I've kind of spoken with you. You know, and that's quite a key part, is that, you know, as the business grows, we need to make sure that we've got the right staff in place, and the right number of staff as well. So that's a really big, you know, sort of part of making sure that we're operationally, you know, functioning well. You know, I guess I'm kind of a bit of an outside perspective, that I kind of look in, you know, observing what people are doing. You know, people come to me if there's any issues with what they're doing, so I can kind of spot areas that we can improve, you know, how we're doing things, and just making sure that everything runs as efficiently as possible. So yeah, I kind of wear lots of different hats, and it involves lots of different areas of the business, but so it's hard to put your finger on one exact thing that I do, but yeah, it's lots and lots of kind of coordination, and data analysis, looking at what we're doing, how we're doing it, how quickly we're doing it, how efficiently things are, you know, sort of being done, whether or not it's still relevant. You know, things change so much that what we did last year might not necessarily be the same that we need to do in the future. So yeah, it's just kind of continual development really of the business.
Sounds super varied, wearing lots of hats. That's one of my favorite expressions, but it definitely sounds like that. But the gist that I get about your role is that you're definitely there to, you know, as you said, have a look at processes where they can be improved, you know, be that oil to make sure everything's running smoothly, and be a bit of that innovator. The business is always driven forward by the people that are within it. So I guess you act as like that standpoint to be that person that's on the lookout for where you can be continually striving for excellence, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's definitely a forward-thinking role. I think, you know, sort of, as you say, the innovation to look what else is out there, how can we do things better, you know, picking up ideas and just collating them and you know, thinking of new ways and fresh ways of doing things, you know, not precious over the way that we do things and stuck in our ways at all. I think as a business we're quite forward thinking anyway, so, and it's just being able to adapt.
Yeah, definitely say Balanced Wealth Planning a forward-thinking company, and I think having an operations director like yourself who is there to well, not your sole role, because obviously you're involved with the marketing side, but who's a large part of their role, or what their role encompasses, is there to drive the business forward, is what helps people, you know, helps business to keep on pushing and become, you know, the best they can be and reach their potential, really. And we previously discussed this, but when you joined Balanced Wealth Planning, there wasn't an operations director or an operations manager in place, am I right?
Yeah, no, there wasn't at all.
So you came in and filled that role. Did you take then the pressure off? Was it Rebecca, your director, that was your co-founder, that was doing all of this previously?
Yeah, so yeah, Becky, the managing director, she was kind of doing you know, the financial planner role, the managing director role, lots of different areas, because obviously when you're a small business and you're growing, that's kind of, you know, you don't have all the staff in place, but you sort of start equipping the team, you know, and filling those gaps and offloading the stuff. So yeah, we definitely work you know, very closely to begin with, and that's just developed where you know, it's I mean, we've recently kind of gone through defining roles in our senior management team again, just because again the business has changed so much that we're finding the crossover between people, it needs to be a little bit more structured and you know, where that sort of line is drawn and that sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely took off a lot of Rebecca's sort of responsibilities to free her up to do more of her advisor work and work less hours, hopefully. And yeah, and it developed. I think the role has definitely developed over the time that I've been there, just because nobody was there to begin with, sort of doing it fully. Just as we've grown and developed as a company, you know, the way in which my role now looks very different to how it was when I started, I think. So yeah, but it's all really exciting and moving in you know, direction.
Definitely. So, yeah. And I think, as you mentioned then, that, you know, Becky, your managing director, was doing a lot of this herself previously, and you know, you are right, small business owners, they themselves are very often having to wear lots and lots of different hats as they swap between different roles in the business. And you mentioned that, you know, taking pressure off Becky was one thing that was important when this role sort of manifested. Can you think of any things where the operations sort of manager director role has added real value to the business, in terms of that being its own separate role, rather than someone else, you know, just getting involved with this sort of stuff alongside their day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest place where I feel that I've added kind of value, I suppose, and the fulfillment for me has been just the development of the team, I think, you know, and kind of and their fulfillment, and you know, the voice that they then have, not that they didn't have it before, but just hopefully that they feel you know, valued and heard, you know, the fact that I'm there, that I can kind of take on board all of, you know, everybody's sort of point of view, combine it, and then hopefully, you know, put something together to move the business forward and make sure everybody's singing from the same song sheet sort of thing. So yeah, I feel like hopefully the team sort of culture and ethos and company, that side of things, I've worked quite a lot on, making sure that everybody's just on the same page and enjoying what they do, and part of that is making sure that it's not, the tasks that they do aren't a pain for them to be doing basis, so as simple as it sounds, but making it so that there's improvements for them and they're not struggling to do something isn't really laborious and time consuming, because nobody really wants that, so yeah, but I suppose I hope that I've added value in that.
I'm sure you have. And yeah, I think it's one of those roles where you add value in so many different areas. It's almost difficult to pinpoint them down. And this is probably, looking back from when almost like before you joined Balanced Wealth Planning, but I think it'll be interesting to hear your perspective on, there'll be lots of small business owners that'll be watching this, business owners who aspire to be as successful as Balanced Wealth Planning have been and continue to grow. At what point do you think, let's say, for example, you're a business owner, you're watching this, you've cemented the framework of how your company wants to look. At what point do you think for them, it's the time for them to bring in someone to work on the operational side? Do you feel like there's an indicator of when it's the right person to bring someone in just to focus on that side of things?
I suppose there's probably not an exact formula, I guess, in terms of, but I guess definitely as the business grows, so when your teams kind of get larger, it's not just one person that you're sort of having to organize, and it's not just one paraplanner, one admin that kind of can communicate quite well together and follow a process and discuss it. I think when you've got multiple people in the same role, you need to make sure that everybody is following the same process, adhering to that. You can put these processes in place, but making sure that actually people are doing them, and if not, why not? I think that's often something that I'm drilling down into to work out kind of who's doing what, not to check up on people, but just to make sure that every single client is getting the same service, the same, sort of end result, I suppose. And yeah, the more staff that you have, it's so much harder to coordinate that, especially if you're a managing director and you've got, especially if you've got clients too, like Becky has, where he's still advising, not just, sort of directing the business, but it's kind of, I think when you get to the point where you kind of need that support, I think you'll know, hopefully anyway, but it's relinquishing that control as well. That's quite a big step, I think, for a lot of business owners, to have somebody else come in and do aspects that you've been so used to doing already. That's quite a big step. So
I can imagine that, looking back at the, Balanced Wealth Planning and the situation you were enjoying in Becky, I can fully appreciate how when you built something up to being your baby, you know that you need that support. But one thing is knowing you need it. Another thing is actually, passing everything along to someone else to support you with. Did you find an element of that, sort of initially it being quite a close working relationship between the two of you?
Yeah, I think, we worked, we still do work super closely now, but it's definitely different. And I think, to begin with, it's hard when roles change to relinquish that control and not get involved in things that you previously got involved in. So definitely there was an element of that, but we both just sort of found our feet, found the kind of natural rhythm between ourselves, and as I say, the company has just developed to such that, my role is very different now to kind of what it initially looked like and the day-to-day tasks that I do. But the same sort of objective of the role, it's, different sort of day-to-day tasks, I guess. But yeah, it's, it is really, it's a hard sort of transition, I think, for especially if there hasn't been that person doing it before. I think for the person filling the role, it can be quite difficult because there's nobody saying to you, you need to do this, this, and there's no kind of training, or, you know, you have to find your feet. So that can be quite difficult. And then equally for the person who is maybe offloading some of their responsibilities, that can be a hard task too. But it worked really well. So yeah, but definitely from both sides, there's an adjustment.
Yeah. I was gonna say, and as we've demonstrated and we spoke about previously, you know, even though that is an element of relinquishing some of your control and that apprehension to hand over something that you trust a lot to someone else that you're now going to trust a lot, but as we've demonstrated, you know, that having someone in that operational role adds real value. And I personally don't think that if you're looking to be a business that is looking to scale up quite considerably, you need someone to fit in that role to support you. It's something that you're not going to be able to do without someone just looking over that for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes back to the, you know, saying two heads are better than one, and you know, and 2, 3, however many it is in your senior management team, that everybody has a different take and experience, you know, and each one is equally as valuable, and there is no way that one person can possibly you know, have all of that. And I think it's just we really embrace everybody's, you know, sort of career history, you know, life journey, all of that sort of thing, because that formulates a really diverse workforce, and you know, and just a better way of executing the business, really. So yeah, I think it's
100%.
really
Yeah, 100%. And we've mentioned it being a role where you add real value. I definitely feel like these sort of operational roles are quite transformative, especially like yourself, who's come in from a position where you didn't have that role previously, and you've sort of, I'm sure it's grown organically alongside yourself as the business has grown. Could you think of any project off the top of your head, or anything that you've been involved with that's been quite standout from your time being in that role?
Just trying to think.
It's hard to pinpoint down one thing when you do things seamlessly in your day to day.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, definitely the work that we've kind of done on the team in terms of just the culture of the business, and that is really, really crucial to a well-functioning business. And I think it can often be underestimated, the power of having, you know, really great candidates, but also then making sure that they thrive and have the best opportunity whilst working, you know, for a company. So I think that's been really crucial, and the value of that, I think, is hopefully felt by all members of staff, and you know, sort of has been brought to the forefront, I suppose, rather than being a secondary thought. I think, you know, that we want to make sure that everybody feels that. So yeah, and then I'm just trying to think, I suppose, in terms of I mean, just general day-to-day things, it's making everything a lot more automated and online. You know, we were very forward thinking and technology kind of based anyway, but a lot of the work that I do is basically trying to make it so it doesn't need to be a manual process. It's you know, if we can automate stuff as much as possible to mean that it frees up somebody to do lots of other amazing things, you know, then I will try and find any way possible to make that happen. So, you know, sort of turning it from, and obviously the pandemic, you know, forced us a little bit more with not having paper, being able to do face-to-face meetings and have sorts of things like that, which we were definitely on the right track anyway, but it's catapulted that even further. So I think, yeah, the automation side of things definitely is a real value. As I say, in terms of efficiency, it frees up staff to do other really important things that you know, can't possibly be done through automation. So yeah, I think that's quite an area that operational roles can add value, make things more efficient and process driven. So
I think it's absolutely clear how much value your role adds to balanced wealth planning, and I think it's really interesting for the audience to hear about what value this role and this position does have to a business. And potentially, if you're in the audience listen to this and you've got a couple of pain points that are resonating, it might be that you need to bring someone in like Laura to support you with that kind of side of things, so you can take off one hat and focus on the many others that you also have to wear in your day to day. And you previously were in an advisory position before you stepped into this role, am I right?
Yes, I was.
And how did you find that transition? How did you navigate that process?
To begin with, I didn't find it too difficult, I suppose. I think I was kind of ready for a new challenge. I think I'd kind of in my head, and I think as probably quite a lot of people in the industry, felt like becoming an advisor was the be all and end all of financial planning career. And I kind of got there and I thought, I don't know if this actually is the be all and end all. I feel like there's more that I could be doing, and just maybe take a different direction. So I think I kind of got to that point and then thought, okay, now what? And I'm sure that there would have been more that I could do, in financial, being a financial advisor. So I think I was just ready for a bit of a change. I guess because once you kind of work towards something for so long and then you kind of get there and then, I like a challenge and just, sort of, so I was ready for it. But I guess in terms of, I think as with any role, when you go to a new company, it takes time to truly understand the new business that you're working for. It takes time to settle in, take it all on board, understand exactly what the business is doing and what we're trying to achieve. So I think that was a lot more crucial to the success of my role, particularly just because it is a bit more of a forward thinking development, sort of process improvement role. So but I love the varied challenges that it brings, and that was it's just fulfilling, and I'm making a difference in a slightly different way. It's just rewarding, but in a different sort of way, not in a client-facing way, which again, I think a lot of people in the industry feel that that's kind of the box that to tick. And it isn't necessarily, it's great for, some people, but there's so much more out there and so many other, different roles that I'm actually, I just embraced it and found it, great, but just in a different way.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that about, being the advice role, being like the end of the tunnel and the be all and end all, because I speak to so many individuals that I feel like are just chasing after the advisory role and aren't sitting down to enjoy the journey that they're actually on. So I think it's really interesting to have someone from your position on to speak to the audience to diversify the industry and show that it's not all about being an admin, then being a power planner, and then being a financial advisor, and that being your end goal. There are so many different avenues in the industry and so many different things that you can explore. What sort of, because obviously what you've been doing to date within the profession, as we said, from the admin position all the way up to the advice, will have taught you so much and really built on your transferable skill set. What skills would you say from the other roles that you'd had in the financial planning profession had really helped you when you stepped into your operational the operational role?
Yeah, definitely. So I think massively the fact that I'd kind of sat in everybody's seat helps with the role that I do, because I can empathize with every kind of every person that I'm speaking to, and often I'm kind of the in-between person. If an advisor wants something doing a bit quicker and a paraplanner says that's not possible, that's a common conversation between sort of teams and stuff like that. and I've seen both sides of the fence. I understand that. So I think that massively helps. You know, I can empathize and see both sides. I think other skills, I think you need to be quite detail orientated and quite analytical, looking at things from an objective point of view, you know, questioning everything. Why are we doing something like that? Can we do it any different? So I think that's really important to have that kind of skill set, and just generally being able to kind of multitask and juggle, you know, as we've said quite a few times, so I don't want to keep repeating, but wear a lot of different hats. So I think being adaptable, things happen, you know, you can't be kind of set in your ways of what your week's going to look like. You can have a bit of a plan, but lots of things can happen and things just change. So I think that's really important as well, to have that ability to kind of think on your feet and be able to adapt and change, you know, direction quite quickly. Yeah, so I think that definitely helps.
And in terms then of someone that might be listening to this and being like, you know, the operational side of things sounds like something that I'd really love. It sounds like it would use my skill set really well. You know, potentially people that are in advisory roles or in other roles within the financial planning profession, how would you say that they, you know, take that leap into an operations role? Because I can imagine that people in the audience will feel like that's something quite difficult to break into once you're already sort of sat in the traditional roles within the industry.
Yeah, I think there's definitely transferable skills from all aspects. I think definitely especially if you're an advisor, you're often having to juggle lots of different clients at different stages, you know, sort of manage expectations, communicate. So I think a lot of those skills are really important, and you know, sort of, it's kind of a bit of a project management type role, which, you know, can be with financial advisors, you know, something that you need. So that can be really useful. You know, you kind of, again, financial advisors have to think on their feet, have to adapt, have to change, you know, sort of what they're saying and doing quite easily. And yeah, so I think definitely those skills are brilliant. I think ultimately you need to be able to kind of take a step back and understand the business that you're going to be, you know, sort of working for or doing that role for. And the better that you understand that and what the goals are, why we're doing what we're doing, and, you know, how we get to that end sort of goal, then I think, you know, anybody can have a you know, flying start to you know, their operations sort of career, really. I think that's kind of the key, to kind of live and breathe the company. That sounds a bit cheesy again, but
so for anyone really that is listening to this and thinks operations sounds like something that would interest me, just take the leap and, you know, position yourself and go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't have any experience particularly like in the role before doing it, but there was lots of transferable skills that throughout my career I could you know, align with operations. So yeah, just go for it, give it a go, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do.
So we've discussed a lot about the operational side of your role and what that looks like, and I think lots of our audience will be really sort of excited to unveil what can sometimes be quite a subjective and unheard about role within the industry and what that looks like for you. But you work as operations and marketing director. So what does the marketing side of your role encompass?
Yeah, so I suppose I oversee anything that represents kind of the company, really. So any kind of content that goes out about the business, so whether that be to clients or prospects, and also internal, you know, communications, making sure that all staff are kind of understanding what the message is of the company, really, and like I sort of said before about, you know, why we're doing what we're doing and what we're hoping to achieve by doing it and how we go about doing that. So yeah, it's just kind of, you know, I guess shouting about, you know, who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why that's, you know, a really good thing, and whether that be to attracting new staff, through sort of our marketing, and being out there, and just being, known in the industry. I think that's really important, as well as being heard by, people that need financial advice as well.
Yeah, fab. Because I think this is one thing that I find really interesting about marketing is we have a marketing lady that works alongside us, and I felt like I didn't fully understand what that entailed until we had someone, where you could see what, how they were supporting the business in that element. And it's really interesting what you said. It's not just all external and how we view it and that all going out to clients. It's the internal part of it. And I guess that's just as crucial in your role as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's all about making sure that every member of staff really, gets the objective and what we're trying to do for clients and how we're trying to help them, because that helps the work that they do too. They understand that there's a real meaning and purpose for it. As we kind of asked before about everybody in the process feeling like a valuable part and adding value and making a difference to clients. What we kind of put out there, is little treats for staff at different points. It's all it all being coherent with the brand and everything like that. So yeah, internal comms, just in terms of perks and benefits, that all matters. And then also, just kind of how we go about things and making sure everybody's kind of following the same voice for the company, I suppose, so every single member of staff, needs to be an advocate for what we do. So it's really, important that they understand that. So, yeah.
And I think it is also really, as we just touched on then, how marketing is just more what you think it as. You traditionally think about marketing in this kind of role, and you suspect that its key driver will be sort of client attraction. And I'm sure that is a very key part of it. But marketing is also the element that, the website and the landing page is the first thing that prospective, candidates see when they look on your website. It's how you sort of position yourself to being the company that you are today. And I guess with your role, that what you've been doing, have you noticed, because I will say Balance Wealth Planning have a lovely website if anyone's listening to this and hasn't had one themselves, but it really feeds your message across, and it really hits the nail on the head in that sense. Have you found that marketing and what you've been doing and supporting marketing with the company has brought back results in areas that you wouldn't necessarily expect?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you can just think about marketing in terms of acquisition of new clients, but it's client retention and also, and being, people knowing about us in the industry and people wanting to work for us as well too. We want to attract the best possible candidates, and part of that is how we, present ourselves as well as an employer. We've just been announced as one of the best financial advisors to work for in 2022. So we're really proud of that as an award that we got recently. So, again, that was, we've done it. It's based on employee feedback and kind of our offering to members of staff as well, in terms of the benefit package and just our company ethos and how we treat all our employees. So, that's been a really lovely thing to do, to understand that actually, kind of what we're trying to do, we're actually hopefully achieving and being recognised for as well. So yeah, all of our staff need to be advocates. It's such a small industry, isn't it? Everybody kind of knows each other, and our employees need to be advocates of us as much as our clients do, because that helps attract new clients and just help us be known in the industry and new candidates. So it's so important.
Yeah, and it's something that I find really interesting, especially coming from a recruitment perspective. It's that as I said, you land on your website, you immediately don't just get told you're a forward thinking company. You can see that it's not archaic, it embodies the qualities that you're trying to be: progressive, forward thinking, and it's from a recruitment perspective, I find it so interesting how the marketing that you funnel out is so important to attracting candidates, and then the internal side of things that we don't necessarily see is so crucial to the retention of candidates and that retention of staff. So that marketing role is just all about adding value to your business, but it's not just all about, as we said, bringing in more clients and those clients staying. It's just as important actually for the staff body within as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. With your help, we've obviously recruited some great members of staff, and
which I've been very honoured to help with.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that they have the opportunity and the voice and the career that they want, and that they learn something from being with us, and we learn something from them too. So it's super important that marketing plays quite a big part in that, and it's just showing, making sure all employees understand, what they're doing and how they're helping people, and the work that they do is really valuable, from, as I mentioned before, every aspect of the business. So
yeah, fab. Yeah, definitely transpires across. And I think, coming from a perspective where we're speaking with people that are landing on your page and, hearing about balanced wealth planning for the first time, that message definitely transpires through the marketing that you're putting out there. And I think that is really crucial. To be progressive and forward thinking, you have to demonstrate that. You can't be a wallflower and try and make a difference. And I think one thing's always been really good about Balance is that you challenge the traditional conventional models and haven't been scared to do things a little bit differently, and encompassing both your operational role and the marketing role together. It's about showcasing and demonstrating that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And I think the two roles, it can be quite difficult to juggle the two, but they work quite well together because it kind of they complement each other really. So it's making sure everything is cohesive and the message is is consistent really throughout all aspects of the business. So yeah,
and as you meant, I didn't even know about this, 2022 one of the top financial advisors to work for. That's amazing.
Yeah, so
nominated recently for sort of gender and inclusivity awards as well. So yes. It goes to show that balanced wealth planning isn't just talking about being the change that it wants to see, but you are being the change that you want to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of our key sort of goals for the business, obviously you have goals in terms of financial profitability and all of that sort of thing, but it's about the industry. It's about making a difference within the industry, educating people, and people actually wanting to have this as a career, and not having so many people just fall into it. I mean, it's great that people do just fall into it, but we would love it that people look to financial advice as a career, just as people aspire to be a lawyer or an accountant, and being as well sort of thought of, sort of widely as any of those other, career paths. And so we really want to do more and, get involved in more sort of within promoting it as an industry to get into, and the reasons why it's really brilliant, and it's just changed over the years so much, hasn't it? And it's time to dispel all the sort of yeah, exactly.
I think one thing that you've just touched upon then that is super interesting is that you're not just being you're being the change that you want to see within the industry. you know, I fell into what I did, you fell into what you did, and it's amazing that you're so passionate about something which, you know, you just naturally organically fell into. It's almost like fate, some people would say. But, you go to school and everyone wants to be a vet, and you meet so many people that want to be accountants, to be lawyers. I do feel like there is a responsibility for the people that are passionate about financial planning within the industry to promote that to the next generations, and that's how we're going to solve the talent gap that come in. But one thing I will say is that Balanced Wealth Planning definitely positions itself as a company that you sort of want to work for, and that progressive forward thinking element of Balanced Wealth Planning definitely transpires through. And you've obviously pushed a lot of change within the firm, and I'm sure there's lots of exciting things that will be bubbling away in the future as well, Laura. So thank you so much for taking the opportunity to speak with me this afternoon for the podcast. It's been so amazing to hear about what a marketing role looks like, what an operational role looks like, and how you can navigate different career paths in the industry to get to that point. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, Laura. It's been an absolute
pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure too. Thank you.